Hey, my name is Thomas Ball. I guess what I do when I speak to high schools is I represent the people that are, that are pissed off. I represent people that are frustrated. I represent people that are lonely. I speak on these feelings that people have. They walk around school, they go from class to class. They got it in the back of their mind, but they're just rushing around and they don't get any chance to sit down and actually learn about what they're experiencing, what they're feeling. And then they go home, and then they got maybe siblings, maybe they got parents, and their parents themselves don't know, they're not experts on self-awareness or self-analysis or what do we call that, right? Like identifying your feelings, identifying issues, come up with solutions. And most of the time, I think kids are getting born into families, and in their teens they start to differentiate. There's going to be, to varying degrees, 5 to 60% of their personality is going to differ from their parents, and their parents are only going to know how to bring them up the only way they know how. And a lot of times, it's hit or miss. There's a lot of good families out there, but there's a lot of ones that, at the end of the day, after being pushed through a day of school, kid's tired, right? He's woken up right early. He's got his obligation, his education obligation. He's got to go almost by law, or else what the hell is he gonna do? And then, at the end of the day, it's just like, you forget about looking at your problems. You forget about these things. You just want to go home and have a nap, let alone do homework or something like that, right? So, man, the first 2 decades of my life it was pure suffering. Between, the social inadequacy, between, I started smoking weed when I was 7 years old, and I got clean for 7 months when I was in grade 10, and that was the longest break I had since I was 7 years old. I wasn't smoking that much when I was young, but it was, somehow I kept, once I got that first hit, I found a way to getting it, and I pursued that, and I attracted those people around me. I was 9 years old and I was hanging out with people that were 18, juicing and smoking at the elementary school, hanging out with them till all hours of the night, and then getting up at 7 a.m. to try and make the bell. We're talking goo goo gaga, we're talking a young guy, right? 5, 7, 8, 9 years old. So anyway, so that's basically, when I get into high schools, that's what I talk about. After those 2 decades of suffering, basically what happened was, I finally got introduced to a 12-step through the 12-step program through, we'll call it divine intervention, if you will, by grace. I met someone that had an opportunity to speak to me, had an opportunity to come to meet me at my level where I was at, who had, and 14 years clean at the time himself. So, so in the last 4.5, almost 5 years now, I've been on this spiritual journey. I've been on a path of transformation, and I've gained a lot of insight on what I went through for the first 2 decades of my life. So now that's basically is what I speak on, is identifying key troubles that either cause a kind of short-circuiting in an adolescent and a youth, the confusion, and being able to, everywhere from loneliness to dating to different social interactions. We can even talk about kind of bullying, what humor, talking about humor. What is actually funny? Is it fun to make fun of someone and get our fun off, with someone not really enjoying it? The detriment we cause to that person. And, I'm all for natural order, and if the guy's not cool, he's not cool, right? And he's going to get made fun of, but too many of us take it too far, and then that can, that kills that person's spirit, right? You know, I'm finding out now in high schools, people, you know, are suicidal now in high school. You know, there's at least I think in Canada, I don't know what the statistic is, but there's a couple kids a year at least that are taking their lives every year. I know just in one high school in the city from where I grew up, that's the trend. It's almost like once a year, and there are these people that are, and they're not even, you know, it's one thing to take your life, but it's another thing to even contemplate about it, for it to even be that bad. So yeah, that's basically what happened. Is like, for me, is it was all compounded between maybe not fitting in at school, not liking the mandatory curriculum that was pushed upon me, and having to, you know, and not liking my teachers, that I was, you know, it was mandatory that I was put in a classroom with them for, you know, hours and hours and hours, and then to go home and to be stressed out with my relationship with my family, and they all not to, and then not really digging them, or I'd get in trouble at school and they go home and that caused stress there, or just me not even feeling connected to them would upset them. So then I'm upset because they're upset, because I'm upset, and I'm upset because they're upset, and I'm also upset. So you see how the issues just compound and compound and compound. So there's a thing online right now. It's called Post Secret, and there's this guy. He worked on suicide helplines, and he found that just people being able to express what is really at the root thing, what's really right beside them wanting to take their lives. When they get to express that, they obviously they start to process what they're going through, and it breaks up what's causing the backlog in their life. So for me, you know, I'm going to throw a statistic out there. I'd say at least to a varying degree, on a sliding scale, because you got many people that have good lives, and many people that would call themselves they have average lives, and it wasn't really, you know, high school, you know, social, these kinds of, you know, sporting, these things aren't really an issue for them. But for me, the way I see it, there's a house burning down for the few kids, the few young adults that are just getting their spirits choked, that are just getting crushed by not having a channel to process what's going on in their lives. And whether they want to take their life, whether suicide's on the table or anything like that, the fact that they're even stressed out, for me, is just unacceptable. I was there, I lived it, I've learned from it, I understand it, and you know, now I'm here to share my story a little bit.